about seasonal patterns, specifically for Chinook salmon in Lake Ontario, I think it's best to start with the winter, because winter, I would say, would be the most stable in their location. Generally with salmon, Chinook salmon especially, they sound during the winter. Deep water, they're trying to find the warmest water, which from the lake's perspective, you can imagine the surface water being close to freezing or even frozen. And as you go down into the water column, the most dense water would be 4 degrees Celsius. So you're really now seeing that those fish would find themselves in the deepest part of the lake, typically. Same with their forage, the alewife. Now, during the winter, they're not often feeding all that much. Their metabolism is much slower. So they're not necessarily needing to replenish their energy stores in order to continue during the cold winter. But in the spring, what happens is they sense the days getting longer, the diurnal pattern, it becomes longer days, and they can start to see those fish start foray closer and closer to shore. And in particular, in the South Shore, from Hamilton to Niagara, seems to attract those fish to come up along our shoreline first in the spring. A lot of it has to do with the alewife migration itself. The Niagara River is a unique feature in Lake Ontario, especially one of the largest is the largest source of water to come into the lake, and therefore has a great generating power to pull in fish, particularly alewife. When Lake Erie being the shallower a shallower lake above Lake Ontario, draining down through the Niagara River, will warm up faster than Lake Ontario. So that tipping point where the main water of Lake Ontario is cold and the water coming out of the Niagara River is warmer will start to become the attractant to a lot of the alewife coming out from that deep cold water of the main lake into somewhat warmer water. The Chinook salmon will follow them in the spring. A lot of people will say, are the salmon running in the spring? That's not the case. Chinook salmon, especially coho and Chinook salmon, they're both fall spawners, so they're not running at all. They're just coming in to feed. Really, rainbow trout are one of the only species that we have for our salmonids that are spring spawners. So the Chinook salmon, they come into the shallows in the spring, chasing alewife as the alewife are coming in to spawn. And then we intercept them just as you would think, all the way through to the beginning of the summer. As the summer progresses, then you'll start to see those fish go from the area of the Niagara River, for an example, in the South Shore, to spread out vastly across the lake. You'll start to see catches from Toronto and towards the north and the northeast side of Toronto, all the way out to Cobourg and even further. You'll start to hear reports throughout the lake as the summer progresses. And then as August continues, then those fish the mature fish will start to hone in on where they need to go back to spawn. And that's generally the last part of July and early part of August is when they start to turn color. You start to see their sides turn more of a grayish, their bellies turn gray, and the sides turn more copper color. And they become darker and darker as they get closer and closer to their time to go up into the tributaries to spawn. So they're getting closer and closer to their tributary. Is usually by the end of August and early September, they're right there at the mouths of the rivers, and they're ready to go up into the creeks and do their spawn at the next available rain, for an example, to go up into the tribs. So you can get some great fishing from shore as well as by boat during that time frame.